I was talking to a close friend of mine the other day, and he was sharing with me about how frustrated he was with his job and how things are becoming more and more expensive. This led us to talking about this whole idea of financial freedom, and he asked me how I was able to achieve this. Now, he's currently in his mid-20s and feels stuck at his job. So I told him that I started hustling and building my first business when I was also in my 20s, and honestly, a bunch of them failed. But I knew I wanted to become financially free, so I tried everything I could and that I knew how to do, from running an e-commerce store, selling accessories, to a service-based business for local clients. I did it all. But long story short, he asked what advice I had for him to help him get out of this situation and do better financially. So then after that conversation, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea for me to make a video about this and share how I was able to achieve financial freedom and, more importantly, how you can do it. So here's my honest advice to anyone who wants to achieve financial freedom. First, you gotta understand why you wanna achieve financial freedom. I know this sounds kind of cliche, but it's really important to be clear on what the reasons are and for you to have a strong why, because it's not gonna be an easy road, and in order for you to stay motivated and push through, you're gonna need a strong, compelling reason. Maybe you just really hate your boss so much and you can't stand working at your job, or maybe you wanna retire your parents, or if you're a guy watching this, maybe you don't wanna have your girlfriend or wife to have to work, whatever it might be. Think about this and be clear on the reason why you're doing this. Next, you gotta have the right understanding and definition of what financial freedom really is and what it looks like. Most people think financial freedom equals being rich, but in reality it's not. In fact, the truth can't be any further away from that. Financial freedom has nothing to do with driving Lambos, Rolexes, or parties on yachts. A person could have all that and still not have the freedom if they were to work at a high-paying job or run a business that's heavily reliant on their personal effort. I know a guy who's a doctor and runs a successful aesthetic clinic, and he's probably making a ton of money, but even on Saturday mornings, he has to get up and go to work to do the aesthetic treatments for his clients. And while I respect the grind, to me, that's not my idea of success, because ultimately the goal is to have freedom, to be able to make the choices of what you want to do with your time without someone else, whether it's your boss or your client, demanding for you to work. So for me, the real definition of financial freedom is where you don't depend on a job and have to answer to a boss or even to your clients, because you have enough income from your investments or a business to cover your basic needs. Essentially, it's where you have complete control over your time, over your life, in fact. Now, to actually achieve financial freedom, you must first believe that it's possible and have no doubt that you're gonna make it. You have to reprogram your mind to not think that the traditional retirement plan is the only possible retirement plan. You know, working a 9-to-5 job to make someone else rich. For me, I knew that failure was not an option, no matter how long it took or how hard it was gonna be. I was not ever gonna give up and do what everyone else in society does. So this might sound a bit radical, but it's really important. You have to believe that you can do it. And some of the things that would help is to focus on learning about money, read books about it, listen to podcasts, and watch videos like this. Pay close attention to what you consume online, and don't ever allow yourself to mindlessly scroll through social media. Achieving financial freedom takes focus, so every moment matters, and you have to use your time strategically. It's gonna suck at the beginning, but it will require some sacrifices. You need to change your whole identity, and this has to be your main singular goal in your life. You're not gonna be able to achieve it by just half-assing it. You have to make different choices than everybody else. And like I said at the beginning, you need to have a strong enough why, because it's easy to feel like quitting when things get hard. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out the way, let's get down to the numbers and talk about exactly how much money you need in order to become financially free. So for the longest time, there's been this 25x rule that a lot of personal finance gurus recommend, and that is where you need to have 25 times your annual expenses before you can retire or become financially free. Which means if, let's say, you need $60K per year for your expenses, then this number times 25 would be $1.5 million. So based off of this 25x rule, you can then generate $60K a year for you to live off, and you'll never run out of money. All this sounds great in theory, but realistically and respectfully to all the finance gurus out there, how the heck are you ever supposed to get $1.5 million saved? This is when I realized, for me and for most people who are just earning an average wage, even if you were to save 100% of your income, it would take almost a whole lifetime before you could ever save $1.5 million.
It's been 84 years.
I feel that this 25x rule might just be a little bit too idealistic. It sounds great in theory, but I personally wouldn't want to have to wait another 20 to 40 years before I'm able to retire and enjoy my life. So what can we do instead then? Well, first, instead of thinking of retirement in a traditional sense where you're just chilling on a beach, traveling all the time, or even doing nothing at all, redefine what freedom is, which to me simply means to live life on your terms, to be able to do what you want, when you want, without having to work at a job or deal with coworkers or a boss that you hate. But it doesn't mean not having to do any sort of work at all, or just not having any responsibility. Hear me out. What I've done is to reframe my idea of financial freedom to be one where I'd still have some degree of work and responsibilities, but the only difference being that the work I have to do are the things that I actually enjoy and that I'm good at. And most importantly, that I'm making enough money to be able to afford everything I want comfortably. So what this might look like could be, instead of working a full-time 9 to 5, you could have an online business that you run part-time that could generate enough income to cover your expenses. So instead of having the mindset of working and grinding and saving up, I'm choosing to structure my life towards a goal where, yes, I'll still have some work to do in terms of managing my business or whatever, but I get to eliminate the things that I don't like, such as waking up early for work, commuting to work, or dealing with a boss that you hate. When all of that stuff is gone, life just naturally becomes a lot more pleasant and enjoyable. And this goal to me is a lot more realistic, and you're far more likely to achieve it. On top of that, happiness doesn't always come from just sitting around doing nothing. Human beings are wired to always be seeking some kind of growth in order to feel like you're progressing. That, and to get a steady hit of dopamine. This is also something that I've observed a lot of my wealthy friends tend to do. That even though they technically could stop working and never run out of money, they're always still somehow looking to build the next thing and be involved in their business activities. In fact, there have also been reports of people whose health starts declining and they get depressed and they start aging more rapidly, all after retiring. So anyway, with this in mind, we don't need to wait until we have that $1.5 million saved in order to be able to enjoy our life and become financially free, because it can happen much sooner than that. Instead of having to wait 20 to 40 years, you could actually achieve this in just a matter of 3 to 5 years. Okay, so the next step is to calculate your freedom number. This is basically going to be the amount of money that you need in order to survive and live financially free. So to do this, open up a spreadsheet and type in every single expense item that you have on a monthly basis. This includes your rent or mortgage, your car payments if you have a car, your food expenses, whatever subscriptions you might have. List out all of these things and calculate the total amount. This will give you your freedom number. Mine was around $5,000 when I started, and I even went on to cut out some of my expenses to lower that number so that it would allow me to achieve financial freedom even sooner. So based off of what you've calculated, this is the amount that you're gonna need to generate through a scalable income source, which would eventually replace your full-time work. Which brings us to the next point. You need to start or build something that could produce a scalable income. This could mean starting a business that isn't directly tied to your time or effort. Because if you're still dependent on your job, it's going to be difficult to scale your income even if you're doing your very best to cut back on your expenses. The goal here is to achieve financial freedom and to have more time and more flexibility. So in order to do that, you will need to build a new source of income that's scalable. Throughout history, there has never been this many opportunities as compared to what we have now. There are so many things you can do, like starting an online business or learning a high income skill so you can do freelance work and be paid a much higher rate than what you're making at your job. I've made a bunch of other videos on my channel sharing the best passive income ideas, so be sure to also go check it out later. Anyway, for me, what I've done is I've built a digital marketing agency where I only have to work a few hours each week to manage my clients' campaigns. And so that has allowed me to scale my income as it's not directly tied to my time. And on top of that, I've also spent the past several years learning how to day trade stock options. And despite what many people might think, day trading is actually one of the best scalable sources of income that you can have if you do it the right way and put in the time to learn the right strategies. I've spent years developing my own strategy and backtested it countless times. So if you're interested to see more of it, I do talk about my day trading strategy over on Instagram, so be sure to follow me there. It's not a get rich quick scheme, but it's definitely a viable method of scaling your income over the long term. So anyway, now that you have calculated your basic living expenses and have your freedom number, one important thing that you need to do is to cut back on your expenses. This would mean that your freedom number would become lower, which means it would be easier and quicker for you to achieve financial freedom. It's a harsh reality, but if you want to be rich, you have to be willing to look poor for a while. This could mean driving a cheaper, used car to lower your car payments, or better yet, if you could find one that you're able to buy off in cash. Also, make sure you're eating most of your meals at home and that you're not spending money unnecessarily by eating out. This also means you gotta avoid hanging out with your friends who indirectly pressure you to spend more money, even if it means turning down invites to parties or whatever. This is the stuff that I did, and I promise you, it'll definitely pay off. For many years, I didn't upgrade my phone whenever a new one came out. I live in a modest apartment and drive a used car. So every dollar saved could go into building additional income streams. For most people, housing is going to be their biggest expense. So try to look at how you could move to a cheaper place, even if it's temporarily. Although I know this might be hard depending on your circumstances. But even then, if you're ordering random stuff on Amazon or going out to eat every week, all that stuff is not necessary for your survival. So cutting back on these things can help you achieve financial freedom a lot sooner. Most people who dream of achieving financial freedom would still have a day job, and on top of that, you might have other responsibilities like with family or whatever. So it's absolutely critical that you don't waste any time. This means no doom scrolling on TikTok for hours every night, because that's literally robbing you of a better potential future. There are many apps you can download to lock unproductive apps like TikTok or Instagram, so I would definitely recommend using these if you find it hard to overcome the distractions or the urge to keep checking social media. I've been guilty of this too, where I tell myself, okay, I'm gonna take a break for a few minutes and then open Instagram, and the next thing I know, I would have been on my phone for more than an hour just mindlessly scrolling. So if you're serious about achieving financial freedom, then you really need to lock in and be willing to make these sacrifices now. Remember that these sacrifices are just for the short term so that you can achieve your dream life later on. The people who aren't willing to give up their comforts now are the ones who would most likely end up being stuck in the same place their whole lives. Those who choose to live at a more comfortable level will likely just stay there and not have any growth for many years to come. Versus if you were to choose to embrace discomfort, you can actually make significant progress to achieve your financial freedom. It's gonna take focus, it's gonna take hard work, but you can definitely do it, especially if you have a strong enough why like we talked about at the beginning of the video. Make the sacrifices now so that later on you can spend less time on your business and travel more and do the things that you actually enjoy. The key here at this stage is to use your day job to your advantage, because when you know that your bills are paid, you can use your evenings and weekends to work on growing your side hustle to the point where the income from your side hustle is able to replace your 9 to 5. Now that you know this, you might want to check out this video where I share 6 realistic side hustles that could make you $200 a day. So make sure to go check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. For now, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.